My friends, we gather here today at a time of great urgency and importance. I hope you all feel that urgency now, down to the very marrow of your bones. In a very real way, lives depend upon the work we will do here over the next 2 days. You see, tens of millions of Americans have put their trust, a sacred trust, into our hands. These are people that we serve each and every day. They are single mothers and homeless veterans and hardworking fathers. They are hopeful families looking to simply harness the opportunities America has always promised to provide. But sadly, they are people without a voice. They are people who have been pushed to the corners of society, voices muffled and discounted. As we gather here today, we must embrace the urgency of the moment by acting as their voice. I suspect that none of us has asked for this role. Life would be so much easier if our work were done after handing out that warm meal, or safe bed, or heating voucher. But after being touched by the heartbreaking stories, the innocent faces of our neighbors in need, this role is one that none of us can walk away from. They are our brothers and sisters, and they are depending upon us. So let us bring the best of who we are to these next 2 days, our collective creativity, our compassion, and our energy, to searching together for solutions that will improve the lives of so many while creating a more compassionate and just society. If we can do that, then this first annual Poverty Summit will have been a success. Good afternoon. I'm Father Larry Snyder, the president of Catholic Charities USA. And in the last year, the network of agencies that I represent served over 10 million people, and that's about 1 out of every 4 Americans living in poverty. As I look around this room, I am inspired to see the faces of so many who make a difference in the lives of tens of millions of Americans every day. To see represented here in this room dozens of organizations that people across this country rely on to help them feed their children, pay their electricity bills, or put a roof over their head. And I'm sure you each have your own thoughts as to what we can accomplish here together. Perhaps you're here to discuss ways to get more federal funding for social service programs. Perhaps you're here to join with industry peers to fight for less stringent eligibility requirements for services. Perhaps you're here to identify future partners to strengthen locally led poverty initiatives. While these are all important reasons for taking time away from your families and the needy individuals that rely on you for so much, I can't help but feel that that is simply not enough. So I'll tell you why I'm here. And it's not for the opportunity to buy a nice pair of cowboy boots and a matching hat, although I do think the look could work for me. I'm here because I want to put my organization out of business. I'm here because in 20 years, I don't want to be here. Now that may sound radical or absurd, but let me explain what I mean. Turn on CNBC on any given day, and you'll see dozens of corporate CEOs espousing their business plans for broadening their consumer base. They have grand plans for investment in research and development, elaborate ideas for online advertising, all to get more people to buy what they sell. Well, in the last 2 years, we in this room have found ourselves in a devastating situation, a situation these CEOs would be thrilled to have on their hands. For the number of our consumers are climbing exponentially, and without the investment in research and development and advertising. Agencies around the country are seeing more people walk through their door every day. But contrary to the CEO of McDonald's, I don't want to be able to say in 20 years, over 1 billion sold. There are currently over 46 million Americans living in poverty. 1 out of every 5 children lives in a family that does not know where its next meal will come from. Research is showing in increasing ways the link between poverty and chronic conditions like diabetes and heart disease. We are seeing every year the climbing numbers of children who are failing in school because of the impoverished lives they are living. These are devastating statistics. They are trending in the wrong direction, and their implication for individuals and families across this country are frightening. So I don't think it's enough to simply say, we need to bring those numbers down, or we need to make a dent in this problem. What we need is to eradicate this problem. We need to take a stand as a country and say, enough is enough. I don't need another year's worth of census numbers to tell me this needs to be addressed soon. I know that this needs to happen now. So I'm here because in 20 years, I don't want anyone to be able to cite the types of statistics we'll all be citing over the next 2 days. I'm here because in 20 years, I want to be able to say that on this day, we all came together to answer the challenge of this moment. Now, it's important to recognize that to a certain extent, we all answer that challenge every day in the work that we do. As I mentioned, Catholic Charities USA served over 10 million people last year in areas ranging from nutrition to healthcare, housing to disaster relief. Feeding America's food banks network members supplied food to more than 37 million Americans, including 14 million children and 3 million seniors. Save the Children provided high-quality early childhood development, literacy, and physical activity programs to more than 200,000 children and adults in underserved rural communities across this country. Without these critical components of the nation's safety net, the lives of tens of millions of Americans would be drastically impacted. But this isn't enough. Looking at the numbers, we see that the status quo simply is not working. The system as it stands may be helping people to sustain, but we should be helping them to thrive. If we truly want to make a difference, we cannot afford to be complacent any longer. So as we gather today, we must reflect on how we need to shape the future. If all of the great work that is being done today is not enough, then what is missing? A year ago, as part of our centennial celebration, Catholic Charities USA worked with Pennsylvania Senator Robert Casey and Massachusetts Congressman James McGovern to introduce the National Opportunity and Community Renewal Act. Senator Casey reintroduced this legislation in the Senate this past week. I'm going to lay out for you some of the ideas embodied in this legislation, ideas that grew out of the experiences of individuals like yourselves working in communities throughout this country. Now, let me be clear. This piece of legislation is not the answer in and of itself, but it is a vehicle to reach that answer. It is a strategy for engaging our national policymakers in the critical conversation needed to make change happen. There will be strong disagreement about the exact form this legislation may take. Strong disagreement likely even in this room, and that is okay. But within it, I believe we can find